Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is episode 302. All the cool kids are going to Substack. I'm Bryan.
I'm Darryl.
And this week, we're obviously talking about the comic book industry shakeup that happened over the last few days.
And something that 2 days ago I knew nothing about.
You're welcome,
Substack.
by the way. Yeah. I've actually been following this for a little while, so I was pretty excited to see all of this going on. And then we have an update on Gina Carano. We're going to talk about
Gina.
We're going to talk about What If Season 1, Episode 1. Supes LoLo is back, so there's news on that. And, obviously then the whole comic book industry thing. But before we get into that, a follow-up on the ScarJo thing, Darryl, I don't know if you saw, but she's been blacklisted from Disney. They canceled her movie. Her next movie they're going to do.
Yeah, I saw that, and when I first saw it, again, it was one of those things that people were hearing about it, but they weren't sure if it was true. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was yesterday I read that, or sometime last night I read something about her, like that movie she was doing is canceled. And yeah, the Mouse House does not like people, breaking rank and challenging them.
No, I mean, come on, it's like. I mean, we're never going to get anything from Disney, so I feel comfortable saying this. I mean, they're a bunch of greedy bastards.
Yeah, and I've told people before. Don't get me wrong. I love a lot of the stuff Disney puts out.
I know you do. You are a Disney fan.
And I was telling somebody that, like, I don't know if I was telling Justice or somebody else, where it's like, look, I love what Disney, some of the stuff Disney puts out, but they're run by terrible people.
Terrible,
terrible, not just terrible.
Chuck would say terrible.
Look, you can be a terrible business person, which, again, in ways as far as they relate to fans, they are. But then it's a difference being a terrible business person and a terrible person. Right. And the way these people act, they're terrible people. Yeah, I'm very comfortable saying that.
100. Most of the time when Disney does something, all I can think of is our good friend Greta.
How dare you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it literally is what it is. She made this decision. She feels like she's owed something through contractual obligation. She's doing the right thing and letting it play out in court. To go along with this, I don't know if you saw, Gerard Butler is actually suing the company that did Olympus Has Fallen, the first one, saying that they the accounting underreported the numbers, and he was supposedly owed like an additional like $30 million, and he's suing for 10, right? He's like, no, you guys messed up, you lied. This is what I feel like this is worth, 10 million, whatever. So, and that's just for the first film, and they're making a fourth one of those.
And I was watching, I think it maybe of Clownfish TV or someone along the lines, they said, this is not a unique circumstance. You see people do this, and it just depends at times if it gets out after they've resolved the issue or it gets out, when it first starts.
What's new is the fact that this was a movie that was put on hold 3 times, ultimately came out on the 4th try. And
fourth time's a charm.
It went out also on a streaming service at the same time, which this is uncharted territory. So for however these contracts are worked out, it's going to be interesting. I think, one, it's not going to affect anything else coming out this year, including Dune. But I think looking at mid 2022 on, there'll be a lot of different contracts written up for some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I'm interested. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say again, it puts me in mind of the hubbub back in the day. This is dating myself. The whole Napster thing, where it's a different type of media or a different type of way to service the fans. And granted, Napster is a little bit different considering the artists weren't getting royalties. But in this case, like ScarJo, she's basically saying, "Look, I lost royalties because of." A different way of doing things that we have not experimented with, and it was not in my contract.
Yeah,
so.
like where's Lars Ulrich being a douche about this?
Yeah,
like talking about how much she's owed. She's owed. She did her stuff. You stole it online. put out a whole album worth buying then, you bastards. Anyway. Metallica is no Fozzy. I'm just going to put that out there. All right. So anyway, I think that's a good enough introduction to this week's episode for our level of perturbedness that we're at this week. Actually, I think we're in a pretty good mood. I'm in a good mood, at least.
Well, from an entertainment perspective,
sure, absolutely.
I'll just put it that way.
Yep. All right, so Gina Carano, as you said.
Gina.
So we finally got the update we've all been waiting for about what she's going to do next and what she's doing with the Daily Wire.
Yeah. So again, we've known they've had this partnership for months. Well, we knew from day one, considering she was on the Ben Shapiro show. She put something on social media. It was great for fans of Gina Carano again, and we're on the ground floor with Gina. A lot of people got hip to Gina, maybe from Haywire. A lot of people got hip to her from The Mandalorian. But we were in it before she was even in any.
Yeah,
of that.
I mean, we were on the Gina Carano bus when she was a kickboxer before she was even in MMA.
Yeah.
So.
And
I mean, that's not like a flex. That's not like, y'all are. No, everyone who's into Gina is into her because she's infectious. She's amazing.
Yes.
And I firmly believe there's nothing she can't actually do with a little bit of time, effort, and training.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
And this, and I know you'll read from a little bit from the article, but this project seems like this is not only is it up her alley from the sense of there's going to be some physicality in it, but there's another aspect of that where it looks like it's going to be pushing her acting limits as far as what we've seen from her, and it's going to force her to grow, which she's the type of person just following her on social media, following her career. Mm-hmm. She's one of those people that relishes in being pushed to grow. So I'm very excited for this. I'm very excited for her.
Yep.
I am excited to see what the Daily Wire can do, because again, it's one of those things where, yes, you're an alternative source, but you still have to tell good stories. You still have to bring your stuff to the table.
And while Hide, Fight wasn't great, it's freaking enjoyable. And I'm actually kind of bummed they haven't put it out to buy yet.
Right.
It's not on any of the streamers to buy. Or I guess services, iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo, or Vudu. But all right, so this is an exclusive article, came from Deadline just the other day. It says Gina Carano will have her revenge. In her first project since The Mandalorian, we can reveal that the actress, Deadline, can reveal that the actress is set to star as a traumatized woman who hires a long hauler to track down an infamous serial killer. An infamous serial killer, not Darryl Jasper. It says here, the Hitcher and Near Dark scribe Eric Red has written the script for the Untitled action thriller, which is based on his novel White Knuckle. The story follows a strong-willed woman who survives an attempt by a serial killer trucker, White Knuckle. So that's the serial killer's name. Haunted by her encounter and the cops' inability to catch her tormentor, she partners with the trucker to end the killer's reign of terror. It says here Carano is producing, by the way, words are hard, is producing and will star in the movie, which is said to be in the vein of Duel, Breakdown, and True Grit. Filming will take place in Tennessee, Utah, and Montana beginning in October 2022 or 2021. Did you ever see Breakdown with Kurt Russell?
Yeah, I did see that.
That movie is fantastic. If it's like half as good as this, or if this is half as good as Breakdown, like I'm all in. Like I remember going to see that in the movie theater, and then like when it was available at Blockbuster, like renting it like 4 or 5 times.
So I was kind of disappointed they didn't mention Joyride, just because I wanted to do Candy Cane.
Joyride but is like an intensely weird movie because it's hard to buy Steve Zahn and Paul Walker as brothers. Anyway, yeah. So I think this is interesting. It says here the Daily Wire tells Deadline they will release the movie exclusively in the U.S. to its members while also making the movie available worldwide. So.
Yeah, and it did say they're looking for a Q1 2022 release.
I mean, this movie is probably going to have. I mean, I doubt it's going to have a ton of special effects, right? It's going to be very much in the vein of Run, Hide, Fight. It's probably going to be a $3 to $6 million budget. It's going to probably take them about, I would guess, under 30 days to film, and then into post-production and editing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So again, I mean, this is an independent movie. This is what we need more of in the US is independent movies. Now, what we need a little less of is the bifurcation of it's exclusive to this platform and only this platform. I would love it if the Daily Wire said it's going to be exclusive to the Daily Wire for 60 days. And then we're going to release it for purchase on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu.
I think something like that would only help not just get their movies more of an audience, but also maybe get exposure to just what they're doing as a whole.
Well, and I mean, I understand the play is to get more subscribers to their service, but right now their service is opinion news and right-wing commentary, right-wing to centrist commentary on the political state in America.
Mm-hmm.
That's not for everybody. There's a lot of people who are like, I just want to watch the damn movie.
Right.
So it's interesting. I'm really interested to see where it goes and what they do with it.
Yeah, because like you said, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about the whole Substack thing, giving us a break or a different avenue to take from the mainstream that has dominated entertainment in the specific sectors is what we need as content, as consumers, because over the last several years we've seen it that yes, we're still getting good stuff, don't get me wrong, but there's more and more of the bland, vanilla, copy and paste, rinse and repeat type product.
Well, yeah, when it's all reboots.
Yes. And then there's stuff where and you can tell, and then this is more in the comics, what we'll talk about is as far as not being listened to as consumers and being fed stuff that we don't want. So, and that goes back to the point once again, I think they can do a better job. And I know they are, this is just in their infancy. This is their second project. So right. They're learning. So hopefully as they go forward, they'll say, hey, to the idea you did, let's make this, exclusive content for 60, 90, whatever it is, 60 days. That's a pretty good, nice round number. And then, expand it out. And what happens is if you have a good product, people will see that and say, hey, this Daily Wire is pretty good. And yeah, I know you're looking for subscriptions, but now that you're doing this entertainment wing, you have to think a little bit away from the Daily Wire as what you're promoting as far as a news source. And maybe they have a membership tier for their other entertainment content for people who don't want to consume the political aspect.
I also think to partner with that is just they also need to put out more stuff faster. I mean, it's been 8 months ish, 6 to 8 months since Run, Hide, Fight. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm hoping they do that too, because I like what they did with that movie. Again, Gina, a huge Gina fan over here. Yep. Hope nothing but the best for her. And I like the partnership, but yeah, I want more stuff from them.
All right. So let's talk about What If.
What if what?
I mean, that's the question. What if it's, what if Marvel was still good? What if, what if they treated their stars with respect and financial gain? I'm kidding. All right. So what if is an animated series. It's based on the What If comics that have been coming out for decades from Marvel, where it kind of takes and does like, what if this happened instead of, like what changed? This opening salvo is, what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? It was directed by Bryan Andrews, written by A.C. Bradley, came out Wednesday, August 11th. And the summary is, during World War II, Steve Rogers is initially chosen to be the world's first super soldier. Before he can receive the super soldier serum, Hydra spy Kruger intervenes and shoots Rogers and Chester Phillips. Peggy Carter shoots Kruger and volunteers to receive the serum herself. That is all right. I'm gonna
That's
pick
enough
this.
right there.
No, hold on. She is successfully enhanced, but John Flynn bans her from combat, secretly receiving equipment from Howard Stark. Carter steals the Tesseract from Hydra and is then promoted to the combat role as Captain Carter. All right. First off, she does not volunteer. She's just like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, no, don't. And she's like, I don't care. I'm just going to do it. So.
Yeah. And I actually, as far as What If goes, it's one of those comics that I would read here and there. It was never one of those that I read a lot. But I'm one of those that I like the concept of, when done right, because one of the things you said about, just the idea of what if and the idea of time travel and stuff like that, it can be lazy. I've liked what they've done with, because I liken this to the Mirror World in Star Trek. And again, the first original Star Trek, they've done it in the Next Generation. And again, sometimes it can be a dead horse, it's that whole dead horse thing. Like, come on, move. I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, I mean, the animation was really good. I liked the story. I liked the changes, the little nods to what actually happened in history or lore of the characters.
Yeah, and I thought, a lot of the voice casting was the same, but then they had some other some newbies that, because Chris Evans is not returning, and whoever, I forgot the actor who played him, the skinny Steve Rogers. I thought he did fine. I love the action, and a couple of things I've seen on videos is talking about, oh, they made her more powerful than Captain America. It's like, look, this is animation. You can do stuff in animation that, a lot easier than you can do in movies. Of course, they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and also kind of to not apologize for it, but a little bit, like, she was also a trained agent who had been through some form of British military, training. And
right.
Steve Rogers was a skinny kid who was always getting beaten up before.
Just a kid from Brooklyn.
So, right. So she, and she was always more not forthcoming. Just always a little more aggressive about getting things done than Steve was. And by the way, it was Josh Keaton who was the voice of skinny Steve Rogers, as they have it.
I like how they put that, skinny Steve Rogers.
Right. If you guys recognize that voice, he was the voice of Shiro in Voltron.
Oh, great.
Legendary Defender. And he was in Ben 10. He's been Tony Stark in he was Tony Stark in the VR game for PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, he's got a prolific, career as a voice actor. So anyway, but yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was funny that Steve was kind of her pet or her Baymax, if you will, in the Hydra Stomper. But I liked that they kept the whole relationship, because she always made it very obvious. Peggy always made it very obvious. She loves Steve for who he was before he got the serum, right?
Yes.
And that didn't change, because what we didn't see in this is Steve went through all of that training. Everything that led up to him going into the capsule for Project Rebirth happened. So she was in love with him before they made it to the Brooklyn or wherever, whatever basement they were in, to do that. So, yeah, I don't know. I like that she got the Tesseract. I like that, like, because like the thing that made the change was she decided to stay on the the floor instead of going up to the booth, right. And so by doing that, she was able to save more people and keep the serum intact from the guy running away with it. So yeah, I liked it, because if you're gonna change it, like, start the change small, like a butterfly farts in Hong Kong, blade of grass breaks off in Hawaii, and the volcano beneath Yellowstone erupts and tears up half.
What was that? There was a movie that did that.
The Butterfly Effect.
No, not that movie. It was A Sound of Thunder.
Oh,
where they did time travel into the past as kind of like a Disney expedition, and they say you have to stay on this path, and one of the participants steps off the path and steps on something, and it's like this cataclysmic change in the future of. It wasn't that great of a movie, but I love the concept, and I actually really like the book itself.
So I mean, so by doing that and changing things so greatly the way they did, like, that's great. It's a different telling. Now, Engadget had an article saying the headline, "Marvel's What If, a fun diversion but not required viewing. It's really just an excuse to go back and watch the films," written by Kay Nodis. I guess that's how you say her name. It says here, Marvel has often been taken to task for poor pacing of its shows. The Netflix programs were always said to be padded out, which is 100% true. With more installments than they really needed per season. The Disney Plus era has given us shows with fewer episodes, but it hasn't deterred complaints from about slow pacing. Correct. What If premiered this week on the service with a different problem. It's frantic and rushed, like a podcast episode played at 1.5 times speed. I can't argue with that opening paragraph, right? Because it is. I mean, it's so fast with what happens, even though, like, you have to know, like, months pass in between, like, each kind of major event. I will say it was a little weird that the actual, like, screen runtime was a little longer than, like, any of the TV shows pilots. Or, well, I guess let me rephrase that. Of the good TV shows, like The Mandalorian, it was longer than The Mandalorian pilot by like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. Right. And I was thinking this was going to be like an 18, 20 minute, but I liked it, even though it did feel that's one of my notes. It felt a little bit rushed. And again, they're retelling a 2-hour movie or an hour and 50-minute movie in 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But overall, I thought they did a solid job of making those changes. I like some of the Easter eggs Easter egg throwaway lines, like Bucky's like, "You almost tore my arm off," or "We don't have all day." Things like little things. And I know there's stuff, I've only watched it once, so I know there's stuff I've missed.
I like Dum Dum when he was like, "When did Dames fight like this?" Today. They fight like this starting today. So here's another part she has here. It says, despite being owned by one of the most famous animation studios in the world, Marvel went with third-party animators. It's a cel-shaded style, which is more often used in video games, and here looks a lot like rotoscoping. I actually thought it was rotoscoping. It's sort of stiff and awkward, with more attention paid to making characters look like they're actors instead of being more fluid and expressive, which I think is true. It's a shame given that Disney's 2012 short film Paperman, which is my favorite Disney animated short of all time, utilized hybrid 2D, 3D style, which looks similar to this, but with a lot more personality. And I 100% agree with those last two sentences. I think this struggled from pacing, and the animation did feel like you were, well, I forget the video game we were talking about at Fretboard, but it looked stiff, right? And do you remember Paperman?
I don't know if I've seen that.
It's where the guy meets the woman on the train, and they're like, it's in like 1930s New York or something like that, or 40s maybe, and they go back to their offices, and she is in an office like interviewing for something literally across the street from him, and they're both like in a high rise, right? So he's throwing paper airplanes to try and get her attention, and he never
I don't think I've seen that.
And so there's like dozens of paper airplanes littered on the ground, and so he gets fired, and he goes outside, and the paper airplanes become sentient and eventually bring them together. And it's just really sweet. I love it, and I love the animation. And there's not a word said, like, because anytime someone talks, it's like whoa, 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 whoa. But I think if the animation would have had a little more style like that, it definitely would have like solved her problems and some of mine. Now, future episodes are going to deal with T'Challa becoming Star-Lord instead of Peter Quill, Tony Stark getting saved by Killmonger, which will be interesting. And she says here, and I actually agree with this, Captain Carter is still a solid start, but a good concept can't overcome animation and pacing issues, even though I'm more forgiving of the animation than she is.
Actually,
but the pacing is rough.
Yeah, the pacing is the thing that is my biggest gripe about this. The animation I for the most part, I wasn't a huge fan of Peggy's character design, especially in the face. And and not just her, but some of the others, as far as the facial expressions, it did have a little trouble with that. But as far as the action goes, I thought the animation was perfect for it. Mm-hmm. And again, my animation styles vary, just like comic book art styles vary. But that was what
I thought
actually
the animation,
what made me like it more.
Yeah, I thought where the animation succeeded most was her with the shield doing the hand-to-hand combat.
Yes.
I think that's probably what they put the most effort into. The other thing that I liked about this is she never actually had a one-on-one confrontation with the Red Skull.
Yeah.
She comes into the room and he gets crushed by calamari.
It was Chitulu. That's who it was.
Well, no, that's not who it was. But and what was with Bucky with all the fish references?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So
and again, that might be something if I go back to, I'm like, oh, I get it.
I mean, there was just a lot, and I was like, like when we watched it last night as a family, it was kind of like, what's with all the fish references there, Buck? So yeah, that's just one of the things. So all right, let's real quick, out of 5 Union Jack shields, what do you give it?
I give it a 3. I give it a 3.5. I thought, again, a bit rushed. I thought it was a good start. I initially, and this is one of my worries, I'll talk about this real quick, is using this and funneling these characters into the live action. I would much rather this be its own. I won't say self-contained, because I know they're doing the multiverse, and that's fine. But just keep this as is. I would love this to be its own thing, and for multiple seasons, where yes, you can pick and choose at how this affects the whole MCU, but let's not try to do these backdoor character swaps.
You don't want them to do the backdoor MCU where it's all female Avengers in Ant-Man?
No. I don't want. I just leave this as is, again, because Marvel has, DC has done very well for the most part in their animations products.
Oh,
Marvel,
absolutely.
not so much.
I can't wait for Long Halloween to hit Max.
Yeah. Is part 1 up?
No, neither one of them. They're both out to buy.
Okay.
So I imagine it'll be like
So
November.
yeah,
Hopefully it'll be right around Halloween that they put both of them up.
No, that would be perfect. Then.
So
yeah, so keep it as is, and again, a good start. I'm looking forward to what they have next week.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like Leonidas said, it's a good start.
What'd you give it?
I'm right there with you. 3.5 out of 5. I thought about a 3, but I thought that was a little too harsh. I think a 4 would be too forgiving.
Yeah.
And it's a pilot. I think, if this is as bad as it gets, and that's by no means calling this bad, please understand that. But I mean, if this is as bad as it gets, we're in for at least something more fun than Sylvie and Virtue Signal and the Neutered Soldier.
Yeah. I like these better, infinitely better than those premieres.
Did you think they defeminized her a little bit too much?
Yes, that's what I meant about
okay. I was
character design.
I wasn't sure if that's what you meant because I did like the way they did her hair, but I hated the way they did Bucky's hair.
Yeah, I didn't like Bucky's hair at all.
So, and Steve's hair was easy. I mean, it looked like the CG version of Steve from Captain America: The First Avenger. So, alrighty. So our show's back
for another week.
Yeah. All right. So just because this is something we talk about, episode 13 had 800,000, 800, almost 840,000 viewers. It had a 0.15 share in the demo, and both of those numbers were down, respectively 4% and almost 17%. So far for this one, which is 30 days after the last one, it had a 0.10 in the demo, which is the lowest it's done in the demo. So it went from a 0.37 with the pilot to a 0.10. We'll get to that. And it had 750,000 and change viewers, which is down 9% from the previous episode, which is less than half of the pilot.
And let's be honest, it's not because the story and the narrative is bad.
No, this is actually, so I think if we compare this to when it first went on hiatus, and came back with, where was it? So when it was from March 23rd until, and then it didn't come back until May 18th. So that one had a 0.13 in the demo and 718,000. So it didn't drop off as much with viewers, and none of these numbers are final yet. They won't be final until probably next week. So it might go up a little bit. It might go down a little bit. I don't know. I think these are probably as close as they can get. And I know you guys want to hear us talk about it, but I think this is important. Warner Brothers, CW, whoever you want to say, I feel is actively sabotaging this show with the way they let it air, considering it started in February and then it turned into a mostly summer show.
So when the first break they had, that hiatus, after was it week 5?
Yes.
Or after episode 5, I thought that, and I was like, okay, that sounds really conspiracy theory-ish, Darryl. And then it happened again, and then this happened, and after it happened the second time, even before this one, that's what I think we talked about it too. I don't know if it was on air or off, but this is an absolute purposeful way, and I don't get it. And is it because this is a show that is about what we always talk about, wanting a good solid narrative, telling a story, not preaching to us.
This show actually has a hero.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way.
Yeah, not talking about any dumb political perspective from the sense of woke politics, identity politics. You have characters, you have women that are strong. You have a black character that's very strong. You have a hero that is strong. You have teenagers who, even though they're teenagers, they don't act like a lot of these teens do on these CW shows.
They have teenagers that they don't want to throw off a bridge.
Correct.
So
you have all these good positive things.
Yeah.
And yet it's as if, because it's not following the woke narrative of some of these other shows or many of these other shows where they want to go, they don't, it's not almost like they, like you said, they're actively trying to tank the viewership. So what, they can bring on new writers to, like the writer they fired. Cause I'll tell you what, if that writer was on there and she got her way, this show wouldn't be what it is now, now.
I mean,
not even close.
Yeah. Here's the thing though. It's still like, if you look at the averages, including the first 5 episodes all averaged over 1 million viewers on the CW. So far its season averages is a little over 1 million, which is great. Like when it came back, it got all the way back up to 961,000 viewers. In the demo, it averages a 2.0, which is actually really good for a CW show. But they put it on hiatus this time because they don't want to go against the Olympics. And I feel like that was a bonehead move because people were watching anything but the Olympics.
Yeah, that was really dumb.
I did not I love the Olympics. And when I watched the Olympics this year, I was watching clips on YouTube. I was not. Yes. I refused to tune into the broadcast. And if I could find clips from other countries where I didn't have to listen to the American announcers, I did that as well.
Yeah, the only reason I actually watched the Olympics last week was because I was with my dad and, we were figuring out stuff to watch. And, we watched more of the track and field stuff, the sprinting and all that good stuff. But yeah, if I wasn't with him, I wouldn't have watched a second of the Olympics.
Right. Absolutely.
And I've never done that.
So, all right. So there's, this is kind of where we are with the show going into the last episode. I had thought I read that the last 2 episodes were going to be directed by Tom Cavanaugh. Unless next week is a 2-parter, like 2 hours.
Oh, don't give me hope.
I haven't seen anything about that though. So
don't give me hope.
Yeah,
please.
I'm not. But like Tom Cavanaugh is definitely directing next week's episode. But it does not say if it's longer, because I thought it said he was directing the last 2. So I don't know. All right.
I sound like Hawkeye there. Don't give me hope.
Don't give me hope. Anyway, so this episode is The Eradicator, directed by Alexandra LaRoche, directed by Alexandra LaRoche, and written by Max Cunningham and Brent Fletcher. Brent Fletcher wrote the episode 11, A Brief Reminiscence in Between Cataclysmic Events, which is my favorite title for a show of all time, which was directed by Gregory Smith. Max Cunningham has not written any episodes so far. Alexandra LaRoche directed episode 12, Through the Valley of Death, when Diggle showed up. That was when Clark fought off Zod in his head. So we're dealing with like an A team of creators here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So in this episode, it's Smallville businesses struggle while residents grow angry with the DOD presence in town. Chrissy gets an offer to sell the Gazette, while the Cushings make plans to move out of town after Kyle gets a job offer in Bristol County. Sam tries to calm the residents of the town at a town hall meeting, but fails when he's forced to dodge Sharon Powell's questions about Derek's death. That was a throwback. It took me a second to remember who she was.
Yeah.
After being informed that Tal Rowe has broken Lar out of the DOD facility, Superman and Irons, they should just start calling him Steel, confront Tal Rowe and Lar in Metropolis, where Tal Rowe uses his new powers to create 4 new subjects with a K out of the crowd and unleashes them on the city. When Superman and Irons are able to apprehend Lar and the 4 subjects, Tal Rowe manages to escape. Meanwhile, Sam picks up the twins and Sarah from a party to take them to safety. They are attacked by Tal Rowe, who kidnaps Jordan and implants Zeta Rowe's consciousness into him. This was a great episode. I was so mad I had to wait 5 weeks to watch this.
Yeah, it's one of the things we talk about, and again, we'll get more into the plot. But what I love about this show with the characters is no one feels like an afterthought. They really, and we've talked about Eric Valdez as Kyle, that he really could have been an afterthought. Now, there are characters that aren't as strong, like Sarah's younger sister, but she was out a couple, but that's fine. You have some of the students that are, kind of like just more like set pieces. That's fine. But the characters that they give story to, even Chrissy in this episode, which, I mean, she's probably my least favorite character. She gets something to do. And then she gets that point where she's got to sell the Gazette. She's thinking of selling the Gazette to a, conglomerate. And Lois is like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Look, I'll be underwater in a month." So you get her perspective from this. You get a perspective of, General Lane getting pissed at Lois because she's, he's trying to do his best for, the citizens, but also he has that secondary where he's looking out for his family. Yeah. And Lois kind of questions his motives, and it pisses him off like it rightfully should. And she feels, she instantly feels regret for doing that. So that's the thing I talk about with the narrative and the story, beyond the narrative and the story, is that every character, all these characters feel like these writers took the time and didn't just say, okay, we're going to do this. Because how often do you see characters just like, we could have done without this character. This character could have been, the lines could have been given to someone else, or they could have taken this character out, taken these scenes out, and focused on this. We see that all the time. And this show does such a good job with every scene and every character, and most character interactions, where you can feel these characters as 3D real live people,
right?
Who, have their own faults and have their own, have their strengths.
Yep.
And that's just good writing.
It really is.
That's just good writing.
It's a well-written show. It's a well-produced show. Titans came out this week. I actually might do a video about that this weekend for YouTube, because I watched all 3 episodes. Unless we want to talk about it next week, and figure that out after we're done recording here. But like the production value on this show, on the CW, versus the production value on a show on, Warner Brothers' flagship streaming program, is just night and day different.
It sounds bad saying it like this, but I watched the first 15 minutes of episode 1 of Titans. And again, I've seen the first 2 seasons. Titans, there are times it feels like someone's backyard project.
Yeah, it's shot on like iPhone 6s.
And it's why? How is the CW doing a better job?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So
again,
all right. Yeah. So this episode, like, here's what I liked about this episode. Taro is gone. He's the Eradicator, which is, one of the names of the Supermen who replaced Clark after the death of Superman. But the Eradicator is also the codex of all Kryptonian DNA, which is now him, which is what Clark was in Man of Steel. Like, right? I think I just kind of like those parallels. Lar is a very interesting character because she's essentially, she is full Kryptonian, right? She is not whoever she was before. She's Leslie. She's Lar. And she's actually a pretty interesting character, even though she's constantly getting her butt kicked. The relationship between John and John Henry Irons is great. The way Lois and Clark were dealing with the boys at the beginning of the episode about like Jordan wanting to go and be alone with Sarah at her parents' house when there's no adults there, and Jordan like not wanting to be the chaperone for it was great. Jonathan. Sorry, what'd I say?
And Jordan. Oh, and also how Jonathan, I love where he says, look, you all can't have it both ways, when he's talking about, partnering with John Henry Irons and learning how to make weapons. Yeah. It's like, you can't have it both ways. You want us to be prepared.
Yep.
That's what I'm trying to do. And Clark's like, dude, you're making too much sense. Get out of here.
Yeah, it was, still my favorite part of the show is the dad Clark Kent, which we've never seen before, especially of two boys, let alone just John in the comics.
Right. And I also like the just Clark in general, where as when they go to see General Lane and General Lane is ticked off at the articles, like they're saying we're basically holding this town hostage. And Clark is like, yeah, that was a little bit overboard. And then Lois gives him this look and he just puts his hands up like, hey, I'm just calling it like I see it.
He's like, hey, I'm just making too much sense here. I mean, this is as far as penultimate episodes go, got that one in. This is just great setup. I can't wait until, it's next Tuesday, but like for me at least, next Wednesday to watch the extended version on the CW app, which you said there was no extended.
Yeah, I couldn't. There was nothing that I saw that was extended of it in this one.
Yeah, I mean, this show was officially renewed on March 2nd. We don't know when it's coming back yet, but all 15 episodes 14 of the 15 episodes have been great.
Yeah, so. And I really hope that next year they do what you've said multiple times as far as using HBO Max as a better way to propel this into people's homes.
Yep.
Because again, the CW, we know about the
CW app, but yeah.
Yeah, you can. But is such a broader base, I think, that would get this show and say, and again, who knows? They might do this in a couple months. We might see it on there, and I will definitely watch it again if it is. Let's be honest. I'm going to do everything I can do to support this show.
During the first hiatus, they put it on Max, and I rewatched all 5 episodes. Yeah. So and then the end. Well, hold on. The fight in Metropolis was really great because Clark did his best to not cause collateral damage. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Like the one time when he was with the one subject and they were flying through the building and they were going to literally fly through that guy A-Train style, and Clark moved out of the way, and then when they flew through the building, he moved them again to miss everybody and just break a couple windows.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a super tiny detail, but it was really, really good. And yeah, I don't know. I think I just really like everything about this. Like I can't gush about it enough.
Yeah, and I love how I love how they, speaking of the Metropolis fight, how they did that parallel with Lois reporting the news as shit gets real in the background. Yep. And that parallel to her dying. And then, of course, they see it on TV and Jonathan's like, this is how she dies. Right. And
it's
funny because you said this to me, and then I was watching a reaction from Blind Wave. They were like, they're not going to kill her, are they?
I thought they might. Do that. I thought they might actually kill her. I really
did. I think I was like, no, I told you no, I didn't think that. And there was a split second where I thought the same thing, where I was like, okay, this is getting eerie. They're not going to do this, are they?
I kind of welled up a little bit. Like, oh my God, they're going to kill her. And they're going to leave Clark alone with these two boys who are going to be angry that history repeated itself on this earth in a different manner. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
And then the end,
absolutely.
The end. Oh my God. When the Eradicator comes and kidnaps Jordan, and we're like, what is he going to do with him? And you have to think, like, Jordan is the closest thing to Clark on the planet as far as being a Kryptonian.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I almost think he should have taken Jonathan instead of Jordan.
Yeah, I don't. And again, we will probably see why next week, why they went that route. But I think that would have been very interesting and added just a whole new dynamic to things if Jonathan was the one that was taken.
Well,
and
like, what would Jordan do having to fight Jonathan, right? Or Jonathan's body at the very least.
Yeah.
And is this going to be the end of Jordan Kent? Like we know he's mentally fragile in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I'm super stoked.
Yeah,
For
and
this.
I'm pretty sure that unless he gets powers or something, Jordan ain't playing. Jonathan's not going to be playing football for some time. That's the second time he's hurt his arm.
Yeah, this was his non-throwing arm this time, though.
Was he a lefty?
No, he broke his left arm this time.
No, it's his right arm.
Oh no, then he broke. Yeah, this is okay. So this is his. This is his throwing arm that he hurt finally. Yeah, he's done. Anyway, but all right. So out of 5 kidnapped super sons.
Oh man, I feel like a broken record. I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, I honestly could give this a 5 just from the sense of there wasn't really anything I didn't like about this episode. Again, I went over everything. Like even a character that I'm not a big fan of, and Chrissy had a very good scene with Lois, and she did a reporter's job when she was trying to grill General Lane.
Yep.
I like what you're seeing with Lana and Kyle and them trying to figure out where they're going in life as far as this not only did the town reject them and just do them dirty, but also the town is crumbling right now.
Right.
And seeing that they're going to have issues, not with with each other, because it looks like they've come together, but with Sarah wanting to have a relationship with Jordan, but that's put on hold. I mean, I just love this episode. Yeah. I almost want to give it a 5. Just it's not my favorite episode. There's been a couple episodes that I liked more than this, and I gave those like a 4.5 too, probably. But it's just the consistency of this show to continually deliver a strong story, strong narrative, good special effects, just everything, good directing, just production value, all of this stuff, acting. I love this show. Like I said, I'd love the only other show that makes me smile like this, like it within the last year that I watched was Cobra Kai. And so 4.5. I'm just going to keep it at 4.5. And I am stoked for next week's finale. Well, bittersweet as well, because it's not going to be on for a while.
So I'm right there with you at a 4.5 for literally all the same reasons. All right. So just because we brought it up, Nadra Tucker was the writer we were talking about who was fired from the show. We talked about this months ago, but she claimed it was for pushing back on what she deemed as racist and sexist storylines, and for wanting to change the race of the Kents to be people of color. But it's also now saying that she claims she worked on all 15 episodes of the first season, but was only paid for 13 of them. And WBTV complained that they did not exercise the option to extend her contract for additional episodes, and that they were transparent and told her why they had not picked up her option. I just like, after reading that, like, I'm so happy she wasn't a part of this show.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but here's the thing. When it comes to a writer's room, not everything you write makes it to TV. Like, you're in a room, like, anyway, enough said about that. All right, let's talk about comics.
Your wheelhouse.
So I'm not going to say it's an apocalypse that hit the comic book industry this week, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10, somewhere between there, because we're not going to cover everybody. Writers who are leaving the big two and heading off to Substack to make comic books, doing a subscription model there, kind of like Patreon. Substack, if you don't know, is a platform that has typically been used for writers to this point. You have writers who are like prolific journalists like Ben Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald and Barry Weiss, who have left, organizations due to many, many things, and have decided that they're going to go out on their own and do this and be supported by the people who read their stuff. Substack is doing that now, and they've pulled in these comic book creators for a sweetheart deal. So these people are brought in. They're getting paid for a certain amount of time. They're getting insurance. They are going to be able to keep all of their, membership fees and stuff like that. And they're going to get to create the type of books that they want to create and own all the IPs. Now, part of this is, they want, if I'm one of these guys, I want to make as much money as I can off of this stuff. But what I really want is to write really good stories that are essentially Netflix series pitches. And then I get to keep the money for the IP instead of Warner Brothers or Disney saying, well, these are our properties. It doesn't matter that you created it. Like Ed Brubaker for creating Winter Soldier. He said he made like 10 times more by having a cameo in Falcon in Captain America Winter Soldier than he did for creating the character of the Winter Soldier, which they used in the movie.
That is
so,
man.
So and none of this is without its controversy. So we'll get into that. But so we're talking Scott Snyder. His Substack is called Best Jacket Press. He also has a deal with Amazon and Comixology and Dark Horse, where he's got I think 5 books that he's going to be putting out with the likes of Raphael Albuquerque, Greg Capullo, Francesco Francavilla, Jamal Ingle, Jock, Tula Lota, and Francis Manipul. Oh, and Don Panasan. Anyway, links to all of this is in the show as I've butchered these names. But so for just with Snyder, for example, so for Comixology, he's got a book called We Have Demons, Barnstormers, The Book of Evil, Canary, Clear, Duck and Cover, Dudley Dotson and the Forever Machine, which I'm actually kind of excited for, Night of the Ghoul. I mean, like right there, he's got an entire line of books that are going to be on Comixology and Dark Horse exclusives, right? I mean, and it's all stuff he owns. It's all creator owned. When it comes to Best Jacket Press, he's, you can go and listen now. He's talking about what he's going to be doing, and what he's going to be doing with Substack and with Best Jacket Press and bringing in other writers to help. So as far as the guys we're talking about go, the people who I think are in the best position when it comes to Snyder, Scotty Young, James Tynion, Jonathan Hickman, and Zdarsky, I think Snyder and Scotty Young are in the two to be most successful in this sort of thing. One, because Snyder already has artists coming with him. 2, Scotty Young is a writer/artist. Most people know him as an artist. James Tynion's going to have to find artists for his stuff. Hickman is going to not only have to find artists for his stuff, but I think he's brought some writers with him. I'll get to that in a second. But he's going to have to find artists, and Zdarsky's going to have to find artists. But Zdarsky, from what I understand, is really easy to work with, so I don't think he's going to have trouble. And I'm talking really, really fast, but I'm sorry, I'm super excited. So Scotty Young's is called Stupid Fresh Mess. And again, links to all these Substacks are in the show notes. James Tiny is The Empire of the Tiny Onion, which I love. Jonathan Hickman is 3 Worlds, 3 Moons, which is actually like, I'm going to skip that. And then Chip Zdarsky is Chip Zdarsky's newsletter. Okay. But going back to Hickman, this is something different. Like, he's starting his own universe here, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, and I want you guys to all go to these Substacks. You can subscribe for free to get access to their email list and their newsletter and like the posts that they put up there. I highly recommend doing that for right now because nobody's putting anything out yet. And the problem is they're all asking $70 to $80 a year to subscribe to their Substacks. Now, they all have this founding member $250 a year tier where you get a bunch of other stuff. But to me, I don't know if it's worth it. But only because they just haven't put everything out yet for what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, this is exciting. So Substack, there's a whole bunch of people. The YouTube channel, it's Comics with Ya Boy Zach. And I forget the guy's real name. He writes indie comics. He's part of the All Caps family with Ethan Van Sciver, where he's got like $4.99, Knife Hand, Blind Spot, something like that. He's got like 4 books out. But like, so he and Ethan do this model of crowdfunding where they put out new volumes and you back them and you get them and you get all the different rewards. Like Ethan just did the Cyberfrog action figures, which I did not do because I'm not a Cyberfrogs fan. I feel like what they're going to try and do here with Substack is shake it up and kind of follow the manga model a little bit and put out individual issues. Put out parts of individual stories digitally and then collect it all and put it out in a trade paperback every like quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I think if that's the way they go, they're going to have a hard time getting like old school comic book fans who are like, I need my book slabbed and raw. I need it ready to go. I want to grab it. I want to hold it. Whereas like you're all digital, right?
As far as
your comics, or do you actually go buy the? Yeah.
Well, I'll every now and then I'll go and I'll get a trade of something that I liked or a graphic novel, but yeah, mostly I'm all digital.
Yeah. So I'm like 50. I'm actually probably closer to 60-40 digital at this point. So like for me, it's not going to be a big deal. Like I actually like reading on my iPad because I can have, my whole comic library at my fingertips. My big problem again is the bifurcation because there's not like a master Substack like page for all of this where I can like subscribe to all of them and then go and like have them in one spot. At least if there is, I don't know how to get there. So if someone wants to educate me and hit us up on Instagram or Facebook about that, that would be welcome and enlightening. But yeah, I also don't know if I want to pay like $70 a year with, Tynion, Hickman, Zdarsky, Young, and Snyder at the very least, plus having to subscribe to Comixology Unlimited, which you can do from our site get 30 days free, for Snyder's Comixology deal. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, I understand I spend way more than $70 a month on James Tynion, or $70 a year on James Tynion. I was kind of hoping Zdarsky was going to stick around at Marvel and take over Amazing Spider-Man, but that's not going to happen. Nick Spencer, he's the other one. He doesn't have his set up yet. That's why it's not linked in here. But yeah, so they have to show me a lot more before I'm ready to put my dollars behind it.
Yeah. And my initial thoughts, again, when you told me about this, I'm like, what's Substack? So I did, my due diligence with the notes that with the links that you put together. And I read through most of them. Like I read through all of Hickman's and he was the first one. And I read through some of Tynion's and Zdarsky and a couple, and one of the other ones, I don't remember which one, but and my initial thoughts was this is good news for fans and creators alike, potentially. And one of the things that Hickman even says, and I think this for the creators themselves, they're not pigeonholed into telling the same format
right.
for every story. And that was one of the things Hickman actually points out. It's like we're locked into a static storytelling format based entirely on an existing economic model. And he also talked about the lack of surprises because you know what's coming out. And he says, I want the content of comics to be like it is now, where you can tell huge sweeping stories that are serialized and the art styles are varied and sophisticated. But I want the experience of comics to be like it used to be, with the surprise and all this stuff. But there was another one. Somebody else did mention the ability to tell varied stories of varying lengths as well. And like, whether it be a one shot, whether it be, hey, I want this one to be 60 pages or just throwing out there, instead of like the 24 pages for 12 issues. Things are going to be up and down. And again, like you said, they need to show more than what they have. And again, all of this is early in the process. I don't know how before this announcement, were there any other comic book creators on this platform before the last? Because when I looked at some of their posts, they started July 27th or something like that.
Nick Spencer was the first one announced, and he's going to be the first one on sometime in the fall. Which I think he's working on all of that now because his run on Spider-Man is ending. So like Tynion will be with DC through next April. So he finishes up his run on Batman in November, and then he finishes his run on Joker, which is a highly, highly underrated book. I recommend Joker by James Tynion in April of 2022. Snyder's already off doing his own thing. Zdarsky's wrapping up with Marvel. Hickman is wrapping up with Marvel, and Scotty Young is, he's actually going to bring back I Hate Fairyland, which was kind of a messed up book to be honest. Like Zdarsky wrote this book called Sex Criminals.
Yes,
it was the people who had like different powers based on different weird kink. So I loved it. It was a great book. But no, I mean, I'm super excited to see this. And I want to see where it goes. Right. So like Snyder, if you want to subscribe, it's $75 annually or $7 a month. Hickman, it's, $80 annually or $8 a month, and then he has a founding member $250 a year. Tynion, same thing, $75 a year or $7 a month if you're monthly, or a founding membership for $250 a year. What's Scotty Young at? Let's see. Scotty Young is $75 and $7 a month, and then he has a boss level for $300 a year. But if you click on that boss level, it's like you can change the price. Like you can change it to like $200 a year. So I don't know if that's like a mistake. There's a part of me that wants to go in and like be like, okay, I'll do $100 a year. But he gives the like I don't know. The I Hate Fairyland has a built-in audience, so I think that's why it's easy for him. And then let's see what's Zdarsky at. Zdarsky's 70 and 7 with he calls it chip nuts for $250 a year. I might subscribe to chip nuts just to be a chip nut. It says here his everything is everything plus exclusive video hangouts and 2 copies of rare image variants and remarks and more. So, I'm interested because like Tynion already announced he's leaving Twitter because of all this.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting, and I'm proud of him for doing that. Everyone should leave Twitter. He's going to have... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I really liked his post about social media. I don't know much about him, again, but his posts about social media and how it's almost like this dystopian... this dystopian landscape, and how these algorithms... Yeah. Or the algorithm is, tuned to make you be on social media and, you know, fight and whatever. And it's just, again, we've talked about this oftentimes on and off air about the foils of social media, which it does offer good things. Let's hey, you know, Substack. Substack's not necessarily social media in the sense of Facebook and Twitter, but it is that type of path of getting out to people that you wouldn't necessarily get out to in such an easy way. But again, going back to what's going on here, one of the other things I mentioned in my notes is there is that creative freedom. I think these creators are going to have that they can't have with the properties of DC and Marvel, but also they're going to have to make sure that and one of the things you said about Hickman is about getting things out. So with this subscription model, fans have a direct access to showing how they can be heard. Yeah. Because if you have 1,000 subscriptions in 1 month and then yours drops down 200 subscriptions, there's something going on, and it's more of an immediate bell to ring to say, hey, you know, we got to pick it up or what have you.
Absolutely. All right. The last one that I forgot was Saladin Ahmed, who he wrote on Miles Morales' Spider-Man. And he's written about some other stuff, but he's not the same pedigree as the other people we're talking about, but he's still a name and he deserves to be added to this list. And his is called Copper Bottle, and he's $6 a month and $60 a year. And he's doing weekly drops of creator-owned comics, plus post about the process of how he does this, and then artist interviews. So I don't know. The other thing is, if you go to Substack.com, I figured it out. On the main page, you can click comics as the topic that you want to see. And then you can go in and see all of the people creating comics on Substack right now. It is not many. So anyway,
I'm definitely, I am excited for this just because of the idea of these creators being able to, you know, offer so many different avenues, you know, and again, it's still early stages, but the initial thoughts of mine in reading through some of their Substacks is, okay, I'm getting kind of excited about this.
Yeah. I think this, I honestly do think that this is going to be a good thing eventually. It might not be a good thing at the start, and, you know, it might kind of blow up in some of their faces a little bit, which I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. What I do hope for, though, is this just makes comics, you know, better again. And yeah, I think this is it's well worth your time. I'm hoping it's going to be well worth your money. Yeah. So I don't know. I've been kind of like digging deep into this all week. I'm a fan on some level of all of these writers, and I want to see what kind of quality they can put out, because I've backed plenty of comic books on Indiegogo and on Kickstarter, and, you know, they've all been varying degrees of success. There hasn't been anything that I've hated. There's been a lot more that I you know, wouldn't pick up again, and I definitely wouldn't back again. But like Metal Shark Bro was a great one. I really enjoyed that. I think it's called the North Valley Grimoires by Blake Northcott. That was a really good one. There was one called the Sullivan Sluggers, which was okay. The worst part about that was I had to wait like a year and a half before I got it. So yeah, I think that takes that part out of it, right? It's going to be, they're going to have to keep to a schedule.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're interested, you can sign up for Substack and you know, create your own comics and things like that. And if you do, let us know because we want to talk to you. I love indie comics. I think indie comics, like indie wrestling, I think indie comics is grossly underserved and needs to have more coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on us for, we need to seek more of that out and shine a light
absolutely.
on that. But if you guys, anyone who's listening, if they know someone, I mean, we've had plenty of indie people on. I think, you know, Brandon Montclair is the only like big two writer we've talked to. But like, I love having the indie guys on. So, all right, I'm rambling. This is a good thing. This is a good thing for comics. This is going to test how adoption of digital has come, and if people are willing to wait every few months or however long it is to get the collection or the trade or the graphic novel, whatever you want to call it. This is a really interesting experiment. I'm excited. 10 out of 10 would try.
Yeah. And again, it just kind of, this is a perfect end cap because we started off, you know, after the ScarJo news, we started off talking about Gina Carano and the idea of having, you know, entertainment options away from, you know, the mainstream. Yeah. And this is what this is. And again, we, like you said, if you're wanting this stuff like this, you have to mobilize. You have to go seek it out. Mm-hmm. You have to take chances and say, hey, I'm going to put my dollars here. It might not work out, but I can't just complain about, you know, what, you know, DC and Marvel are doing and not do something about it. So this, again, I like the idea of this, and I hope this really turns into something.
Yeah. I agree. If I had to just say, based on, okay, so Nick Spencer hasn't posted anything yet. I like Nick Spencer. He's a Cincinnati guy. So there's a little bias there. If you're gonna say, okay, of these 6 guys, I can only pick 2. Scott Snyder is going to be probably the most accessible as far as it comes to like what you would expect from a normal comic company. I think Zdarsky and Scotty Young are going to be the farthest out there. I think Tynion is probably going to be the one who surprises you the most with the variety of things that he can write. And for me, Saladin Ahmed, I haven't read enough of his work to know. I wasn't a huge fan of his Miles Morales run. And then Hickman is the wild card because it's going to be, can Hickman keep up? And is it Hickman keeping up, or is it a team that Hickman puts together and he's like the editorial oversight? But if you had to pick 2, I would say put your money behind Scott Snyder and James Tynion. And if you had a third one in there, I'd say Zdarsky. Scotty Young isn't going to be exclusive, but you know, I think as far as enjoyment of a cross section of books, you can't go wrong with the 3 of them.
Yeah, that's solid. And again, some of them, I know, other ones not.
That's
not as
probably
much.
What I'm gonna do. I'm gonna back the 3 of them. And like Snyder, for me, I have a weird relationship with Scott Snyder's books. I liked his early run on Batman, but I would find like I would really be enjoying it, and then as I closed the book, I'd kind of forget like it existed. You know what I mean? But then I met him at the Comic Expo, and he was really, really nice. And like seemed very fan friendly. But I don't know. Oh, okay. The other thing is the controversy, right? Behind Substack, because Substack lets anybody come on and write. There's the inevitable, this is let's racist A or bigot B or, you know, SJWC right on this platform. Substack is not a social network. Think of Substack more like Patreon, more like Subscribestar, things like that, where you are backing people that you like. And the beauty of it is, if you don't want to look at like the Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss politics stuff, you don't ever have to. That's the cool thing about this program. When you're on James Tynion's page, you're on James Tynion's page. You're not seeing, look what, the president of the United States did, or look what's happening in the Middle East. You're just on this page. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. It's showing what you like by putting your dollars down.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%. And again, like I said, Snyder, Tynion, Zdarsky, you can't go wrong with one or all three of them. And I mean, $70 a year is a pretty good deal. I mean, that works out to be what, $5 something a month.
Yeah. I don't remember which one who said it. It was like $70 is a lot, but if you think about it, it's $5 a month, which, okay, that's not that bad, but which is so-and-so a week, which is, if you break it down to like 25 cents a day, it's like, oh, okay.
I spend, let's see, like $15 a month on Tynion right now. So it's a discount for me. Cause I get three of his books and they're all about $5. I've been buying X-Men books for a couple of the X-Men books with Hickman, but I mean, like when he was writing Powers of or House of X and Powers of X, I was buying all of that, plus I was buying all of the X-Men books at that time. So, and I'm always buying stuff from Zdarsky, so I enjoy Chip greatly. All right, wow, we rambled. Okay, I'm done.
What do you mean, we, white man?
Hey, that's racist. How dare you? Wait, hold on.
How dare you?
There we go. Anywho, well, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check out the website and all that fun stuff. If you're interested in following what Scott Snyder is going to do on Comixology, it's through Comixology Unlimited. Go to the podcast site or just go to infamouspodcast.com/Comixology and you can sign up to get 30 days free of Comixology Unlimited, which is access to, thousands of comics. It's well worth it. It's well worth it. So is that what you do?
Well, I there's a couple things I do. Okay. So
you don't sail the 7 seas, do you?
Sometimes it depends.
How dare you? Wait, hold on.
It's one of those where I'll check it out and it's like, okay, if I really like this series, I'll get it. But yeah, cool. I don't know. Like if it's something I really like, I'd like to get the trade. I do have a thing about, getting comics, in the flesh.
Yes. Speaking of comics in the flesh, I just want to say thank you to Bruno Redondo for drawing Nightwing as well as he does, and for putting his stuff for sale, because I got page 3 of Nightwing 82 and it came this week and I love it. You can see it on my Instagram account. Follow me on Instagram.
That is pretty cool.
So
yeah, that is a pretty cool
dude.
Artwork right there.
I'm gonna take it and get it framed maybe this weekend. So. Alrighty. Well, on that note, any last words? What do you want on your tombstone?
Smallville. Superman and Lois. 52 weeks out of the 52 episodes a year.
No, don't you remember that commercial? What do you want on your tombstone? Cheese and pepperoni.
Dude, I remember those.
I think Supes and Lolo 52 weeks a year would be overkill.
Okay, 40.
There you go. I don't know, man. That's having to watch 40 episodes of a show. I like the 15 episodes. I just want to watch them all at once. Not at once, but I'd like to watch them in consecutive weeks.
Yeah. That would sate me right there.
Yeah. Cool.
So.
All right. We will talk to you all next week. Keep an eye on YouTube. I think. Are you going to do your thing this week now that we're all back home and up and running?
Yes, there might be. Yeah, that's my plan.
All right, and I plan to on like Tuesday-ish put out a review of the first 3 episodes of Titans. Ugh. It's crap. It's not crap. It's not crap. It's not. Anyway. All right. On that note, we will talk to you all next week.
See ya.
The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. You can find new episodes every Sunday on Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, our website, or anywhere podcasts are downloaded. This show is hosted by Darryl Jasper and me, Bryan Tudor. To find more information about the show, visit us at infamouspodcast.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Infamous Podcast to keep up with the show. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/infamouspodcast. We have some great rewards for our patrons and are looking for help to grow the show to bring you more of the content you want to hear. Music for this podcast is provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. So, whenever you're listening to us, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.